Okay. Well, hey everybody, this is Stephen Butler here.
And this is Lily Butler.
And we are the father-daughter team who bring you lots of cool comic book related stuff. And that's what we're here for today. This is Imagine Your Story, right, for the Jackson George Regional Library System Summer Reading Program.
Yeah.
And we're here to share just a little bit about how we imagine our story, our stories, because we imagine quite a few of them, and we're just here today to share a little bit with you about our process, what we do for a living, because we do comic books and comic book art for a living, and talk to you a little bit about how maybe you could get published these days, or how more than how you can get published, how you can self-publish your stuff, because the opportunities are just so much better now than when they were whenever I was you guys' age and getting started. And we want to kind of run you through that. Now, while we do that, earlier today I did a sketch cover drawing. This Captain America piece right here that you see finished, and what we'll be doing is we're going to be doing a voiceover commentary track while you see this comic book cover being drawn. So without further ado, are you ready? You want to jump into it? So let's check it out. Here we are. This was what you're seeing is a video that I did earlier today. It was a sketch cover that I did, and when I say sketch cover, you can see it's just a blank cover with it's just like a specialty cover that comic book companies put out, and they do them this way for the specific purpose of fans getting a one-of-a-kind cover drawn by their favorite artist. And they usually do these where they go to conventions where the artists are at, and they'll pay them to draw a sketch cover. I get a lot of mine through email and through Facebook and other social media, because that just seems to be the way things are done these days. And that's what this one is. This was a Facebook request that I'm doing, and I just thought that it might be kind of cool to share something like this while we're talking a little bit about what we're doing with this getting into comics. Now, a little bit, as you see, I'm penciling right here. It's a Captain America piece, and you can kind of see as I'm talking the way I go about this. I know it's sped up just a little bit, but hopefully you'll still be able to tell what I'm doing. But I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about how I got started in the comic book industry, and this goes way, but this is like ancient history to a lot of you guys, because I'm pretty old. So I got started in the comic industry in 1989. So I've been working in comics for going on 31 years now, I guess. And I got into comics in a completely different way than a lot of people today get into comics. And back then I was going to school at University of Southern Mississippi. Met some friends up there, had similar interests that I do, artists, writers, that type of thing, and we all just got together and decided we would pool our talents together and just create some comic pitches, proposals to different comic book companies. And so met two guys, one named Mitch Bird and one named Roland Mann, and the three of us got teamed up and started putting together a comic book proposal. And we just started, and once we got it finished and done, we started sending it out through the mail, through snail mail, that thing that I guess some of you guys still use and know what it is. But we would send these packages through the mail, and I don't know how many we sent out. I'd say about 15, 20, something like that, to as many different comic companies as possible. Did we send it to Marvel and DC, the biggest comic book companies out there? No, we sent them to all of these independent companies, because there were a lot of them back in the 1980s. They were everywhere, and we thought that we would have a better chance of getting into an independent comic company better. Our chances would be better there than at Marvel, and we did. That's what happened. We got work through a company. Our book came out through a company called Malibu Graphics out of California. They no longer exist anymore, but they have the historic honor, I guess, of being the first publisher of Image Comics, Todd McFarlane's Spawn, and all of that stuff that became so popular later on. So we got started with them, but also something else happened. All three guys got hired on by different companies. We got farmed out to do work for other companies, but that was fine. We were working in the comic book industry. I wound up at Marvel Comics, and my buddy Mitch wound up at DC Comics, and we shared a studio together, but we weren't working on the same stuff. We were working on completely different things, and that's the way it stayed for the bulk of the 90s, and then things happen. You lose one job, you find another job. I've worked for a lot of different companies. I worked for Disney Adventures Magazine, Archie Comics, drawing Sonic the Hedgehog. In fact, I was drawing Sonic the Hedgehog when this one was born, and used to draw Sonic the Hedgehog when she was just a baby while I was holding her in one hand and drawing pages with the other. This was back in '90. I started working on that job in '98. You were born in '99, right? And so I did that book until 2015 was the last time that I did that. But and it seems like, once your work is out there, once you make it into the business, it's easier to you have more contacts, and it's easier to find. Well, I say it's easier. It all depends on the market. A lot of times, but at least you have an inroad of who to contact whenever you've been in the business for a while. You have we used to call it a Rolodex or whatever of people's numbers and stuff. Now it's all on your cell phone, all on your contacts in your phone. But that's how I mostly got jobs back then, and a lot of times people would see the work that you did. That's how I got hired on at Marvel. I was at a convention one time, and I was working at that. This was before I was working for Marvel. This was in Chicago, and some Marvel guys came up to me and said, "Hey, we saw your work on the Badger comic," which was what I was doing for a company called First Comics, and they were in Chicago. They were an independent company. And these Marvel guys said, "We'd love to see what you do on our characters, but we'd like for you to send in a sample, what do you call it, a sample submission type thing." And so, man, that got me excited. Even though I was working on the Badger, I had work, but wow, the chance for working for Marvel was really cool. And so I did that. Seems like I did that. The next week after I got home from that convention, I did those pages, sent them off that weekend. I sent them off, I think, on a Friday, and I got 2 calls on a Monday following, and they were both Marvel editors so I got 2 jobs in one day from Marvel, and I'm like, oh my Lord, what am I going to do about the Badger stuff? And it's crazy how it worked out, but it was around that time that company went bankrupt. And so I kept doing work for them for a little while, but it just turned out that it wasn't even an issue. So anyway, that's how I got into comics. I want to tell them how you got
into comics. Currently,
well, we're in the process of working on our own comic. We have a successful Kickstarter that hasn't been printed yet, but we're in the finishing stages of it. And it was we did that Kickstarter back, when was that? 2 months ago?
February.
Yeah, it was right. It was before the whole
pandemic.
The pandemic thing. I mean, literally right before that. And so it was successful, and so that means we're in the I'd say we're in the money, but we're in the business, and so hopefully that other part will come But anyway, so, and this is this isn't your first job to do though,
This
right?
is my first time doing interior pages.
Okay.
I've worked on several covers for comics. I've colored several.
Some children's books.
Yeah, and
as well.
I've illustrated some children's books too, coloring book and a children's book. Today it is a whole lot easier to self-publish. So if you have a story or ideas of your own, it's a whole lot easier to self-publish and do it yourself. Like we're doing a comic right now, and we self-published it ourselves. We got the funds through Kickstarter, and there's a print-on-demand company that we're getting it printed, and then
we're my buddies, so it helps to have friends in high places or low or middle, whatever. It's good to have friends that are in the business. That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. So we use crowdfunding, which is Kickstarter. Kickstarter is probably the most well-known of but there's also Indiegogo, and I've heard of several others crowdfunding programs that are out there, but Kickstarter seems to be the premier one that most people use, and we found that we liked it. It was easy, well, a lot of work, but it's fairly simple, to use. You just got to really apply yourself, and you got to believe in your product, and once you get the funds, you got to follow through with it. That's where we are right now.
Yeah.
We're in the what you would call the fulfillment stage, and which means we have to keep updates with our backers. And when I say backers, I mean you basically put out a Kickstarter campaign saying we're going to put this book out, or we're going to put this record, or whatever it is that you're doing. In our case, as a comic book, we're going to put this comic book out, and we need to get it funded. And basically, you're having people pledge money to you to get this thing done, because they're paying basically for the printing, for you to finish it, they're paying for the shipping and the fulfillment of the thing, and in return the different levels, and they can pledge all different kinds of levels, all the way from what was our lowest, like $5 all the way up to $300, whatever it is. Each level that they pledge has a higher reward that they get.
We have things like
one
stickers,
of a kind type reward.
Yeah, we have like stickers and prints, postcards, trading cards, a bunch of different things that we decided to do.
Right. And we, how did you go about that? Because she was the one that mostly did. I'm like, she's the tech savvy one. I'm the one that's just like, okay, that sounds cool, let's do it. What is some of the things that you looked at whenever you were studying doing the Kickstarter? I mean, did you look at other Kickstarter campaigns?
I looked at a lot of other campaigns that have been successful. Kickstarter isn't new. People, doing their projects on Kickstarter isn't a new thing. So it's good to look back at other people like you who are also successful to kind of give you some pointers. Be like, okay, what worked for you? Oh, that's actually a good idea. I think we can do that.
Right. Like when we had to make a video for the thing, and I remember that was quite an experience. So even now, we make videos like we're doing right now, and we're kind of getting more used to it, more relaxed and stuff. But I remember the first one we did, I'm like, this is kind of strange, and reading off the card, and it's like, hey, look at the camera, instead of reading off the teleprompter or whatever. But anyway, we had to look at other people and how they did their videos and stuff, and you got to find your own voice. You got to find your own way of getting stuff out there. But you got to create something that you like.
Yep.
But because that's what makes it worth it for you. If you don't like what you're doing, then go work for somebody else, or something. You got to create something that's from inside you, something that you really, really love. But you also got to think a little bit, don't you, in the commercial realm. It's like, is this thing going to sell? Yeah. Is the thing that
what are other people going to like?
Is going to be something that other people like?
Yeah.
Right. And so you got to think about all of that whenever you're putting this out, because you're
and we
devoting.
Asked people.
Oh yeah. Kind of did a Kind of did a survey. What would you like to see? Now, whenever this all started, because I've been part of a Kickstarter campaign before, but I didn't run it. I did a calendar last year.
Last year.
It was for I guess it was at the end of last year, and it was my idea and everything. And I remember asking people, would you be interested in this before I even did it. But I had a friend of mine that actually, hey Mort Todd, who my buddy from up in Maine, he ran the thing, and I learned a lot just by seeing what he did in that campaign. And it was a successful campaign, and it taught me that I could do it, and that I could get this work out and shipped. And I found that I liked it, and even before that, though, you had come up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, can we work on a project together?" And I'm like, okay, cool. And that was all she needed to tell me. But I had to think, what would be the best project for us to work on? And so I had to think about all of the things that both she and I like together. And well, we like because of the Sonic. Sonic was like your favorite. I still haven't seen the movie, even though she tells me it's awesome. But anyway, because that was such a big part of my life professionally and her life, just because she was around it all the time. I said, we can't do Sonic, of course, but we could do something that has that similar vibe, that similar style. And then I thought, but that could be any genre. You could do a Wild West version of Sonic, but I'm thinking, what does she like as well as myself? And I knew that we were both into fantasy, Lord of the Rings, that type of thing. And then I had thought about maybe going more of a national type thing. We're of Irish descent, and so then I got to thinking, Ireland has this wealth of mythology that you don't really hear a whole lot about. You hear about Greek mythology and Egyptian and Norse mythology, Thor and all of that stuff, and Norse mythology, but you don't really hear, outside of leprechauns and stuff, you don't hear a whole lot, banshees, you don't hear a whole lot about Irish mythology. And so we thought that might be something fun to tackle, but going at it in the route that Sonic the Hedgehog style. And so that's where Fiona McCool and the Hound of Ulster, which is our working title, came from. And once we had the premise, the setting, the characters, it just started building. It just started building from there, and we started reading up on Irish mythology, Celtic mythology, and stuff. And just, we didn't want to do a straight up retelling of it. We wanted to do kind of like our own version of it, like a funny animal. I say funny animal. It's because it's drawn like funny animals, but not really. It's more akin to an adventure strip than it is, even though there is humor in it. And actually, the humorous parts of it are my favorite parts of doing the story. We're talking the whole time, and I'm drawing. I'm in the coloring stage here of this Captain America piece, and you can see I'm using mostly a watercolor and these P.H. Martin Dr. P.H. Martin watercolor dyes. That's what's in in that little circular receptacle over there, and I'm using this brush that is got water in it.
Yeah, in the barrel.
Yeah, and it sure helps.
You don't need a paint cup all the time.
Right, it helps the paint blend really easily. But I use these more frequently than markers whenever I do this stuff. Even though she is a Copic kid. And those things are fine. I like them, but man, they're expensive. And this is the way I was trained. This is the way I learned how to color. And so I'm just sticking with that. Actually, the Dr. Martin's dyes, that's what comic books used to be colored with before they were colored digitally. This is what the comic book color guides were colored with. So anyway, I'm showing you something really old school whenever I do these sketch covers. But you do quite a bit of these sketch covers as well, don't you? Mm-hmm. At conventions, that's another one of the things that we do. We do a lot of conventions. Of course, we're not doing any now because all of them have been canceled because of the virus. Welcome to 2020. But it seems like even though and now I'm bringing out my trusty Crayola markers. Well, those are really hard to find. I just go down to the dollar store and pick them up. But they work fine. I like them because they're bright and vibrant, and they give me exactly the kind of boldness that I'm looking for in these covers. Looks like I'm coming pretty close to the end of this thing. Another thing that I would like to say, when we did the Fiona McCool and the Hound of Ulster Kickstarter, we wanted to think in terms of something for all ages, because one of the things in the comic book realm today, like, you're not going to find a whole lot of comic books that are geared for all ages or that are geared for kids. There are some, out there, but you got to really look really hard to find them. Most of the comics these days are more like mature reader type thing. And again, there's obviously an audience out there, but that's just not something that I'm really interested in doing. But I found out recently that there has been an uptick. There's been like a rise of interest in graphic novels. There's the finished piece, guys, so you can see how it looked. But just to continuing on, the graphic novel market seems to have grown quite a bit, and I know the library carries a lot of graphic novels that I've seen, like the Jeff Smith's Bone series. Yep. That was huge. And that got started in the comic book stores, but it was kind of like a pioneer in gaining traction in I don't know who put
Scholastic.
Was it Scholastic that put that out? So that was probably the beginning of their graphic novel line, which now has gotten I got one here, and this was one that you had gotten earlier. This is a Scholastic one.
I got that when I was in elementary school.
This one called The Amulet, and I think there's numerous, and it's a really good, exciting, similar to what we're doing. In fact, it was after I read this that I said we can do this, something similar to this, and it's this type of thing that we're going for. So that's one of the things that we're looking to get into. We'll when we do our fulfillment for our Fiona McCool project and get our comic out there fulfilled to our backers, we're also going to be sending it out, the actual finished comic, out to Scholastic and Random House, Paper Cuts, and whatever other company, book company that's out there that would be maybe interested in carrying that type of thing. That's the thing. Today you've got more choices. You're not just stuck with having to go with Marvel or DC or whatever. You can do a lot of this. You can self-publish, even if you don't have the money to, or you don't know how to do the Kickstarter, anything like that. You could put your stuff online, right?
Yeah.
Web comics or whatever.
Comics, yeah.
Aren't there pages like that host those things?
Yes, there's apps, there's pages, they're all over the place. Some people just do them like on their
Facebook page.
Yeah.
You can, and if all you want to do is build, and I would say that probably to start with, I would say that would probably be your best bet, is to start by sharing your work and getting it out to as many different people. There are different Facebook pages that are geared for fans of that type of thing. You join those pages and become friends with other like-minded people out there, and get your stuff out there that way. If you get a good following, then maybe you could think about creating your own webtoon that you could, or web comic or whatever, that you could try to get online hosted by one of these official hosted places or whatever, or you could get a grouping of the comics that you do, or weekly, daily, weekly, whatever you do, and then maybe put them together into a comic and try the Kickstarter thing or whatever. There's just so many different ways that you can go about getting your work out there. If we can do it, guys, we're here. We're in Loosedale. We're local local people. I've been here all my life, and I don't plan on going anywhere. You could live anywhere to do this type of thing. The only thing that's well, there's nothing stopping you except your want to. The tools are out there. You just have to get out there. Now, I will tell you this: once you decide to do it, you've got to stick with it. You've got to, because if anything, if it's worth doing, then you gotta stick. You gotta stick with it on a daily basis. I don't draw when I feel like it. I draw because it pays our bills, and that's a philosophy I've always had and always will. I'm trying to get it into her head, my son's head, because it's important. If it's you can make a living as an artist and being an artist, but you've got to really take it seriously and treat it just like a profession, a job, because that's what it is. So guys, I hope that we've helped out a little bit with some of the stuff that we've talked about today. Yeah. Check out my Facebook page. I have several. I have one, just Stephen Butler. It's a picture of me and her, so it's easy to find on Facebook. Then I got an actual professional page called Stephen Butler Studios. Yes. On Facebook. And then I have a fan page that somebody made for me called the Butler's Brigade, and you can ask to join that, and I'll let you jump in, and it has all of my stuff that I put on there. You can message me if you have any questions, if what we've talked about today sparked any interest or whatever, and it made you say, well, what about? You can ask me personally that, and you're on Facebook as well too. And not just on Facebook. I'm just on Facebook because that's all I can handle. But she's got a little bit.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well. I'm Flowering Lily. I'll put my accounts up on the screen.
Okay, right. We'll put those on at the end. Also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you want to have more drawing, mostly it's drawing videos. We got a lot of our Fiona McCool and the Hound of Ulster. And by the way, if you missed the Kickstarter, you can still get it later. It will be available online. It ships in August. But after August, if you're interested in getting a copy, we'll follow my Facebook page, and I'll tell you how you can get it. It will be available online. So I guess that's about it. Thanks so much for having us here. Hope you guys are having a great summer, and we'll see you later. See you in the funny pages. Bye.